is it not the expression of the individual to continue that balance, to give testimony to the efforts of those that have suffered and struggled, and to, in doing so, reduce the charge of release so that less will struggle and suffer. And so the mystics understood that when others are suffering or struggling, it's a time to diminish one's own pleasure so that others will not have to struggle and suffer as much. They saw it as, in the gestalt, in the totality of the system, there's a certain amount of release that's taking place. That if we can diminish it within the abstract, then there is less to filter its way down into materiality. And so the light worker can do profound light work. By feeling in their heart and taking notes and playing the music of their heart, even for a moment, even for a minute, for the suffering in the world, the suffering of a civilization, the struggle of another, be it as it materializes in financial struggle in an economy or an epidemic or a war. But the ancients understood that there is a cadence to the year, that time itself has a personality, that minutes are not just fractions of time that interplay one after the other, but that throughout the year, different days, different hours have different music playing in them, and different potentialities that are at play in those moments. And that time is not relative. And so they dedicated times of remembrance, times of mourning, times of great celebration, times of renewal and rebirth. And in every culture they've had this. And in the Western world, because we live in a scientific gestalt which looks at time and pretty much everything as being less organic, as being plastic, as being interchangeable, relative, that religion of empiricism imbues the sense of the culture and the population. And so times of celebration or memorial or holidays, they don't take on a cadence of importance other than a weekend off and a time to shop. It's good for the economy, let's add another one. And it's important, especially in these times, when there's flux in the world, to take those points, those coordinates, to actually inhabit the vibration and theme of that day, of that expression, to imbue it, to bring balance to our world. There was a great man, a mystic, who was crying, and someone asked him, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "I am crying for the way this wonderful, righteous individual was killed before his time. And the individual said back to me, he said, "Are you crazy? That happened 2,000 years ago." He said, "He's my brother. Doesn't matter. In love, it transcends time. And the song and the expression is accessible at all times. And if we learn to imbue the lessons of what was, then there's no need to repeat them in the future or in your now. If we take the moment to remember, then we've learned the lesson of the past. And we don't need to repeat that lesson in materiality, for we master that resonance in the abstract. And so when we have a time for reflection, a time for celebration, a time for, at a time for celebration, we're not just celebrating, but we're tapping into all the energies that ever celebrated, and we're pouring in that orchestra of music, and we're pouring it into our now to help bring balance. And at the time of memorial, we're recognizing what has happened, so that each to our degree we are afflicted with the reality of that devastation or struggle or learning from without, so that we've learned and internalized that lesson from without. We don't need to learn that lesson from without anymore. We're choosing to learn it through intimacy. And it doesn't have to materialize in our material world in this fashion. And so, time is so special. It's not something that exists outside material realm. It's a splintering. And in that splintering, the chords, they all get separated. And they come in waves at particular moments. And when they come, you're not just dealing with memorial, but you're dealing with all memorial. And you're not just dealing with renewal, but you're dealing with not the renewal of this particular event or that particular event, but the energy of renewal. And so it's so powerful to release, to create equilibrium, to offer the solution, to plant the solution, plant it deep into the unconscious of a civilization and a collective, to give them the release from the tension so they can again be, so they can again choose, and this time choose in freedom to love.